Just yeah, no, it's really really good to reconnect you.
God, I've been looking forward to it, man. I wanted to pick just the right time when we had things to talk about, and now's the perfect time.
Yeah, no, no, exactly. It's been a while, hasn't it, that we connected and everything.
Yeah, when was that? I really liked that interview.
Yeah, it was really good. I think it must be at least like a year and a half ago.
Damn, time flies, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, sorry I'm a little tardy. I spilled some coffee on my rug right before
Oh,
we
don't
got
worry.
started.
That's okay. It's all good.
Made me start thinking about our first conversation. You was talking about your tea, I
Yeah,
believe, compared to the US tea.
yeah. I've got some tea now actually. So it's like,
I got some cold brew as well.
oh, nice.
Hmm.
We um we like basically like put milk in it. We put like I think in America put like cream in it, don't you? Put a lot of cream in like coffee and stuff like that.
Cream, sugar, flavored swirls,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
yeah, it's crazy.
I like the
But
new getup you got back here. You got a little backdrop now.
yeah, no, thank you. I kind of like I discovered like how to put my logo on Zoom. So I put my podcast logo on the back.
Yeah, it looks good.
No, cheers, man.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, I see you've been creating loads of music and lots of content. Like before we kind of get into like podcasts, like have you everything been okay since we last spoke? I mean, a lot's been going on.
Have I been okay?
Yeah,
That's a good question. A lot has changed since we last spoke. I'm sure you could say the same on your side too. Um, all for the better though. How about
yeah.
you?
No, that's good. Yeah, yeah. A lot of changes. A few job changes. Actually, I think when I was talking to you, I was unemployed. I wasn't working. I was looking for work, and I was just kept doing my podcast. But then since doing the podcast, it's helped me to get employment.
Is
So
that right?
so I'm doing like a coaching job for a company in the UK. Helping people with their mental health and helping them back into work. But
That's very nice, man.
it makes me think about what we spoke about when we last talked about that consistency and kind of working on your craft and that kind of thing.
I've seen that you stayed consistent. Um, and I really like the stuff you've been doing. I was just watching the interview you did with, I don't know his last name, but Kevin was the first name. You guys were talking about relationships,
Mm.
how we can be addicted to our past girlfriends the same way somebody would be addicted to drugs. I
Yeah,
thought there was a lot of good talk in there, and I definitely want to tap into your recent post about money.
yeah,
I think you and me have similar views on money.
yeah.
So yeah, nah, I really like what you're doing, man. Keep it up.
No, no. Cheers, Jay. Really, really appreciate it, and same with you as well. And I think
Thank you.
that the guy Kevin the High, he's a good friend of mine. Yeah, it was a really good podcast actually, and it was kind of it's true, isn't it? When you think about money and you think about relationships, um, like I mean, like people addicted to relationships, a bit like drugs or whatever. It's kind of like the same thing, isn't it? Really, it's just a different kind of like form. Um,
Yeah.
but like we could start talking about money if you want, because I mean that was one of the things we noted down.
Mm.
Like I think in that post you mentioned, I think I said something like, you know, there's I personally have nothing against money. I think it's a tool. If you can do something, you should get paid for that service, whatever it is. Um, but if you can find something that you enjoy, money will eventually come with that. And I think a lot of people sometimes are so focused on the money, and the people will say in general life, I think growing up, you know, people say, "Oh, how much money are you getting on it?" and "What job are you doing? What money are you getting?" And that's kind of like the pinpoint thing that people always think about is the money rather than what you're actually doing. And
Mm.
I think money can buy you happiness, but it's sometimes that temporary happiness if you're kind of stuck in that loop.
Mm.
Like, what do you think? Like with in that time and in the topic of money, I know it's quite deep, but
Yeah, that is deep. It's hard to know where to even begin. Where I'm in an industry, especially especially the music industry, where money is is valued very highly, especially in the hip hop community, in the rap world. At some points, like, I find myself questioning what is more important to artists. Is it the artistry, or is it the money? Did you find like a hustle, and music is your hustle? And I definitely respect that. But I'm with you. I think happiness and loving your craft is supreme to the money 10 days out of 10. Which leads me to ask you, with the new job, are you doing that primarily out of love? Because it sounds like a career you genuinely be interested in. Or is the money good as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main driving force of me doing it is because I think, for the first time in a job in my life, that I actually have a passion for and have an interest in it, because I'm talking to different people. It's kind of similar to the podcast, really. I'm talking to different people, but in that one, in my job, I'm helping people kind of with goal setting or working on things or listening to them talk. So it's a passion of mine, and the money with it is pretty good, for what it is, compared to, if I compare it to some other jobs that I've had in the past. What is this, salary, so to speak, is good. But
Do you find doing this and your actual job therapeutic for you?
I think it,
Or,
yeah,
or do you find, sorry to cut you off, or do you find pleasure out of helping others? Or are you getting both?
I would say it's both. I would say, you know, talking to other people is quite self-reflective. You are talking to people, and it ultimately makes you think about your life, and you can learn a lot from other people, connecting with them and their stories, and relate to them. So it's that kind of yin and yang, if that makes sense, with
Absolutely.
the podcast. And if someone listens to it, or you get that feedback, that's always nice. And I mean, that's, my main driving force is to connect with people like yourself, talk about really good topics. And if someone could take something away from this, then that makes me happy. And it makes me happy talking to you about and learning about you, and so on and so forth. And then my job, I enjoy, because I know there's some value in it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
And I think you must feel like that way with your music, because people listen to your music and take something away from it.
Yeah, it it still always surprises me and takes me aback when people can relate to my music, or they tell me it helps them in any kind of way. As corny and cliche as that sound, you hear every artist say that. But really, my music is really for me. It's to get that those sides of me out, get those thoughts and that inner Jay out. So when other people are like, "Hey, man, I play the song every day ever," I'm still taken aback, just like, "Damn, I can't believe you feel that way too, or you're moved by anything I had to say." Um, yeah, it's really special, man.
And I think the first song that I ever listened to of yours is that the one with the bagpipes. Is it Johnny?
Yeah, Johnny. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
yeah, and I sent that to some of my friends in the UK as well, and they really like it as well.
that's cool, man. Yeah, I remember recording that. That's definitely like an egotistical record, almost like another side of me. Um, and again, I'm just surprised people like that, because I'm not saying the nicest things on there. So when
Yeah.
people can identify with the aggression in that song and still have something positive, because they're not coming up to me saying like, "Oh man, I listened to your song and it made me want to have a bunch of sex." or I listened to your song and made me want to do that. They're coming up to me saying like, hey man, I listened to your song in the gym. It keeps me focused. Or hey man, I play that song and makes me think about my childhood, and just, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Special stuff.
Yeah, and I think everyone's so different, and the people take something so unique from it, don't they? They people can identify with music. They can take something away from it,
Mm.
and that's kind of one of the powerful things of music. And like you mentioned, you've got like two new songs out as well. Like, was it one's called Tarantino, and what's the one you've got? Is it Senorita?
Yeah, so the two newest ones I put out was Gutta Tarantino, which is another really egotistical record inspired by Quentin Tarantino, obviously, if you guys are familiar with the filmmaker. And Senorita is kind of like a toxic love song. So it was really ironic when I was playing your interview with Kevin, because what he was talking about how we continue, how many of us continue to just cycle back to our ex and do this like repeated makeup, breakup. That's kind of what Senorita is all about. Um, so whatever Kevin's talking about in that post, spot on for what that song's about.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's really it's really true, isn't it? Like with relationships, and what I was talking about with my friend Kevin the High is, like we were saying earlier, like it's like people become addicted to certain relationships or certain kind of relationships, and sometimes it's a bit like people taking probably certain drugs or whatever. It's be having that addiction to whatever substance. It's very similar, and I think it can be a distraction. It can be sometimes our self-worth, or sometimes our own thinking patterns, because we as humans we ultimately sometimes go to what's familiar and to what's the norm. So sometimes people might be in a certain relationship, and I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship with someone in the past that's quite negative, and then you might be with someone again, someone different, and it's but more positive, and it feels strange. And sometimes we're kind of leaning back towards what we used to, because we're like, well, this is really comfortable with this. It's a challenge, and it's quite. We have to be quite mindful, don't we? And think about what's going on with us. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you were breaking up towards the end there. Um, but to piggyback on that, I think you guys both made good points in that conversation. And I'm not trying to keep going back there. I just really like the conversation you two had, and I found like I identified with a lot of it. But I think he made a good point in saying that there's often something about our ex partner that reminds of us. And he gets into saying how intimate of a connection that is, even if it's the things like you guys mentioned, cheating and lying. Often there's something within that cheating and that lying that identifies with us, like a guilty conscience perhaps. And but you made a good point in the same token to say that in your current relationship or the relationships that work also has something to do with you. There's something that you guys relate on in relationships that work, not just the ones that don't work. Um, so yeah, man, relationships are a tricky thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's deep stuff, isn't it? And I think like it's true what Kevin said. And with with relationships, it's a constant process, and I think you're always learning about yourself, finding things in yourself, and learning about other people. And like my current relationship, you know, I I've had to have, I mean, everyone's different, but I've had to have experiences and have relationships not work to kind of find out what it is I want, and what it is that have those boundaries in place of, I don't want this, but something kind of in this area,
Mm,
and make that clear. But I think Kevin said in one of the clips or in that one, sometimes people will say, I want to be with this kind of person. I want this and this kind of person. And sometimes we can't really do that. We can say we want this in a relationship, but we can't kind of mold that person into a shape that then, you know, you can't, it's like trying to put a triangle into a square shape, if that makes sense. And I think
Yeah,
sometimes people do that.
yeah, you definitely mentioned that. I think, and I won't make this like a relationship podcast. That
No,
wasn't where
it's
I wanted to
fine.
take this, but
It's fine.
Angie Martinez from Hot 97 in New York. She was on Drink Champs with Nori and Tiffany Haddish, and her relationship advice, which kind of piggybacks off what you were saying, was to think of your 3 core values and look for somebody who has those 3 core values and see if you can work with the rest of them. And I thought that was pretty helpful. I mean, I'm not looking for a relationship, but I thought that was pretty insightful, because I'm sure there's 3 things that you definitely need in a partner. I think if you start with those 3 basics, you can kind of figure out if the rest works for you. But a lot of
Yeah.
times we do the rest. We get attracted to the rest, and we sometimes push aside some of those values because they are super good looking, fucking great in bed, or whatever it might be, rich. Another thing on that same token is getting back to like how we see ourselves and our partners usually, the good partners and the really bad partners. You never feel the same all the time, do you? Don't you change?
You mean with if you're in a relationship with somebody,
Just in
you
general, don't you find yourself like, you just find yourself evolving sometimes, or sometimes you find yourself going through cycles sometimes where you feel this way for a few months, and then a few months later you feel slightly different. You know what I'm
mm,
talking about?
yeah, no, I can relate to what you're saying. I think in relationships, you might be with someone and you mean you mean how like the relationship's going or where you're both at. And sometimes, you know, you might grow and then sometimes people might outgrow the other person. And I think it's got to be, I mean, it's like there's leveling up, isn't it? You know, we kind of like this. And I think
Hmm.
sometimes people might go like this and then the other person might catch up or not. I think that's how, you know, relationships are. I think, you know, if there's not that kind of pivoting, you know, then I think that's where sometimes relationships might stagnate, or we might, you know, like you said, we might feel different, or
Mm,
you know, because I think you ultimately want to grow, don't you, in life? And I think that person has to kind of probably match where you're at in some way. You need to be like, well, this is what I want from life. This is where I want to go, and you know, are you with me on this? What do you want? You know, what do you want from this relationship? And I think that's something that I think I find, and that's something that I think about. And you know, but I think yeah, you do shift and grow and change, and I think we do go through those cycles. But I think the big thing with that is communication.
hmm.
You know, communication and trust, um, and having that love, if that makes sense. Because I think without that trust and communication, it can really grind your gears, and you know, it's an ongoing process. And I think we've all got our own shit, we've all got our own baggage, so to
Yep.
speak. But it's owning that and working, okay, I'm going to work on this. But in relationships, it can't all be one sided.
Right. I think that's where those core values come to play as well, because there are certain things, I think the real nature of us that genuinely doesn't change or doesn't cycle. And I think whatever those things are what you want to look for in your partner. And
Yeah,
then growing and all that, like you said, that's when communication and all that comes into play.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said, with core values, some people's values might be negative. Some people might think they're not of value, or they might,
Mm,
because of past experiences or past relationships or whatever, or they're even, this ties into upbringing. What have they seen with their childhood? What, how were their parents going on? Because people take in their environment and what they see, and sometimes think that's the norm as well. But some people might attract certain, people. Like, you see some people who might be a very negative person, and they keep going back to negative people, and that might be their value. One of their values might be a bit corrupted. They might not think so good about themselves. Then they attract someone who gives them that way that they feel about themselves. So it's almost like a mirror, isn't it? So there's a mirroring somewhere. um I won't get too deep on it, but I mean, there's like, narcissistic people and empaths, and some certain people attract certain people in that remit.
for sure. Now, how long you been with your lady?
I've been with her since last October, so it's now August, September, October. So yeah, quite some time now since last October.
Okay, you guys are doing well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I think, every relationship has its challenges, and
Yep.
I'm very good. I've learned how to communicate in the moment, and I'm very clear with boundaries. Um, but yeah, we're going well. I work 5 days a week, and then I'll see her the weekend or tomorrow, and then
Mm.
we will do things. We'll go out, whatever, or sometimes not. We'll just chill at home and make some dinner or something. So yeah, it's going well. I think you have to communicate. You have to trust. And
I,
enjoy those small things as well, don't you think? You don't have to always be going out and doing things.
I think in due time you guys need to do a podcast together.
Oh,
I'd
you
like to
think?
see, yeah, I'd like to see how you guys work. I'd like
Yeah,
to see what just kind of how you guys bounce off each other. That'd be
yeah.
neat.
No, I'll write that down, and
Yeah,
I'll ask her.
I think people would like to see that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, man.
How about you? Are you where are you at with things? Like, you like in a relationship, kind of like
I
how?
am seeing somebody. Um, and like you said, we're a work in progress.
Yeah,
Um, but like you said, you know, I had to. I'm continuously learning,
mm,
so I don't think I would be seeing the current somebody I'm seeing had I not dated the other people I dated in the past.
yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's
man.
no, that's good, man. No, I'm glad that you're good, and I think there's you gain so much from experiences, don't you? And that's how you
Mm,
grow. That's how we have a different, understanding and view on things. Because I think you have to do that, because you build a picture of what you want and what you don't want. Whereas before, in the past, when you're just kind of doing it, you make mistakes. You're doing whatever,
mm,
and then you're like, that's how I think that's where you learn. You're like, oh no, I shouldn't have made that decision, or I shouldn't have got with that person, or vice versa. But then, like you said, everything is a work in progress. Relationships and life and everything else. And like, I was just thinking as well, like we mentioned, like upbringing. Like, what do you think? Like what was your upbringing like, or why do you think that's important? Do you think?
You know what? I was thinking about that too. And before I get into my upbringing, and I'm definitely going to ask you about yours.
Hmm.
Um, I saw a podcast with Riff Raff and Theo Vaughn recently.
Oh, Free of One's a legend.
Right. I actually saw him live recently.
Nice.
He's funny. But Riff Raff was saying in his depiction of growing up, he was comparing the first 10 years of our life as us saving money sorry, saving information to a SIM card. And then after 10 years old, you unplug your phone and everything you learned in the first 10 years are your tools and you know, what you learn and how you adapt after 10 years old is that. Do you feel that way as well? Do you think a lot of our core, like, personality traits and beliefs and thoughts are heavily based on the first 10 years of our life?
Yeah, I mean, massively. I mean, I personally think that, growing up as a kid and those early years in your life definitely have a fundamental part to play in your life. The way you think about yourself, how you see the world,
Mm,
your parents. It is definitely like a molding almost, and but like building a house. It's those kind of concrete foundations that we might have certain core beliefs, we might have certain ways of being based on those years, and whether that's positive or negative experiences. Some people might have, I mean, we've all got traumas and stuff, but some people might have severe traumas in those years, and then that's just a knock-on effect, later on in their life. But you can deal with trauma. You can work on stuff and understand it.
mhm.
But I definitely think it has a part to play in.
You
And
think
then,
that's a stretch to say that we're primarily made up of the first 10 years of our life? Do you kind of agree with that, or do you think that, there's some real core, some real coreness within us after 10 years old? Do you think anything like after 10 years old really makes you who you are?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I saw it. I saw in an article somewhere, but I think they said in the first like couple of years of your life, like growing up as a kid,
Mm,
your subconscious mind is like molded and formed because you're taking in your environment. With your subconscious, you've got all your beliefs in there and your thoughts and your behaviors, and then that's kind of automatic. It's like you
mm,
said, you're kind of putting that data onto that SIM card in that time.
yeah.
But I also think, I mean, this can happen at any period, I think, in our lives. We can have a negative experiences, or if we have enough negative experiences in life, or enough positive experiences, that can still change our thinking and beliefs, later on in life. But I think, you know, I found, those teen years quite fundamental as well.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that too. Let me
Like
spin
what
gears on you. What do you think about all these damn outer space photos they're releasing? Yeah, what do you think about that?
I I believe in stuff like that. I like to
Okay.
think there is something out there, um, whether that's spiritually, whether that's in space. I think there's too much mass and too much space for there to not be anything. And I think
Mm,
they're releasing a lot more data, a lot more evidence. Where the White House in America are saying, that your military are saying this isn't ours. Is this yours? And the Chinese and whatever are going, well, that's not ours. So this
Now,
got to
slow
become
down on that. I don't know
okay.
nothing about politics. So what are they saying is ours and theirs?
Okay, so have you seen that video of the TikTok where
Yes.
it, yeah, okay, so the videos like that are being sent, like they're asking different militaries around the world and saying, is that your aircraft? And
Mm,
they're not saying that it's theirs. So then, your government are like, well, if it's not theirs, it's not the Chinese, it's not the Russians, it's not the British or whoever else, then what is it?
mm.
So I've seen, have you ever seen that International Space Station in space where all the
Um, no.
it's like a space station that they send like astronauts from different countries to like do work and things.
Okay.
I'm not a scientist,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
there was a webcam footage of like a UFO or an object moving really quick towards it. And
Mm.
as it got really close, NASA turned the camera off so people couldn't see it.
Oh,
So you think, well, what are they trying to like not show people?
now NASA is a US based company, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
whatever organization.
yeah, yeah,
And the Tic Tac that you were talking about, that was filmed by the US too, right?
yeah. It was one of the is it the Navy, someone in the Navy or the Air Force, someone high in the Air Force
And
captured
in
it on
your
his.
neck of the woods where you're from, this is big information. Because I don't
It's
know the
on.
US's impact around the world. I don't really know. Like, so that's like big news to you guys?
It comes on the news feed. I mean, with our phones now, I think it's all kind of filtered out to what you search and what you look for.
Mm,
Majority of it, but we do get a lot of like Western, like American news um,
mm,
on our they call it the BBC.
I've seen it.
So we have like the UK and then the world. So we do get a lot of American news.
Okay. And what is like you guys have a space organization over there?
Um, I don't know the name of it. I think there is a British space. I can have a look. Like a British Space Force, if that makes sense. But like like you
Yeah.
have NASA. But I think we work alongside NASA as well.
Okay, cool.
But there's definitely got to be something out there. Definitely got to be something out there.
Yeah, those photos they released really got my mind running. Especially that one they're saying is a bunch of different galaxies.
Oh,
You-
that one that's traveled from like an interstellar. Yeah,
Yeah,
the big. Yeah.
yeah, that's a big one. That's got my brain racked.
Well, you listen to people's stories. You hear to people's stories where they say they've been like visited and all these weird things, and you, like I don't think. I think the government definitely know, but they wouldn't want to tell people to freak people out. Do you know what I mean? There's definitely things they're not saying, but
Have you
that's
ever had
for.
an experience?
I've seen. I've never obviously seen an alien, but I've looked in the sky where I used to work in a hotel in the middle of nowhere.
Mm,
And I remember like finishing work and looking into the sky. And I remember like seeing something very bright in the formation. It wasn't a plane, but it was moving in different formations. It was like speed was changing and then it was stopping and then it was getting brighter. Then it was moving this way and then it was going down and then it's going this way, like up, down, left, right. And that was a bit strange,
mm,
but it wasn't a satellite. Satellites go in a straight line.
yeah.
Have you ever seen anything or apart from videos?
No, I've had a couple people. I don't know how deep you're into like the UFO thing, but they describe a triangular shaped ship that has lights on the front. You ever heard of people talk about that?
No.
I've I know a couple people that have claimed they've encountered a ship like that, where it's flat in the front, it comes back in a triangular shape, and there's a bunch of lights on the front, and it doesn't make any sound. It just hovers quietly. I've had a couple people because where I'm from, around here in New Hampshire, we have a lot of UFO sightings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hear about that stuff pretty often.
Yeah. I mean, as well, I think with UFOs, I mean, you got to think like as well, like, your military have got some hefty kit and they're
Yeah,
testing lots of different things that are, classified. Um, well, so I've seen on articles and videos, um, and that's all top secret. And people could say they're UFOs, but there might just be like a really special aircraft that no one knows what it is that
yeah,
can go ridiculously fast.
yep,
You see those drones. I mean, the speed of some of those drones is like ridiculous. They can go from zero to whatever in a matter of seconds.
yep, 100%.
But like, it's really. I hope. I hope that there's something out there for sure. And like, with upbringing as well. Like, what was your kind of upbringing like? Like you growing up like a teenager?
Oh, a teenager. I don't even know where to begin.
Or some
Um,
key bits?
Man, I moved around a lot. I could say that, and I think that played a big role in who I am today. I lived in apartments. I've lived in trailer parks. I've lived in full blown, houses with a yard and a driveway. I've dormed. So I feel like I've lived in a lot of, I've even spent a little bit time living at a campground when I had to. Um, so yeah, my my upbringing's all over the place. I went to college in Hawaii, so that was pretty cool. And that changed my life quite a bit because I was born and raised in New England on the opposite side of the country. So going across the country, across the Pacific Ocean to some island in the middle of nowhere for 2 years, that affected me a lot. What about you, man?
That's really interesting. And I think, like all experiences shape who you are, don't they, and how you think and behave. Me, I mean, as a teenager, at a young age, my parents split up. So
Mm,
my dad kind of, I was always back and forth seeing my dad. He's a chef, so I would see him, and then I wouldn't see him for a while. Um, I grew up in a city called Nottingham in the UK, so
mm,
quite a big city.
mm,
Um, Quite rough. Went to quite rough school.
mm,
Got around the wrong people. Um, so I mean, a lot of that was difficult.
mm,
Being around the wrong people, and you know, I was kind of fueled by my ego. I wasn't really caring
mm,
or thinking about what I was doing. I was, having, fights with people and stuff like that, being goaded.
mm,
Um, and then that was really difficult. And then trying to find out who you are. And I think in school, I didn't really feel like I fitted in, but I was just kind of doing what all the other kids were doing, trying to be around one of the cool kids. That makes sense. And then
mm,
if you pull away from that group, then, you get attacked. So
mm.
a lot of that was hard. My dad wasn't always around. Um, you know,
Did you have a
s-
stepfather?
I had a stepfather, but he was pretty like, emotionally abusive. Wasn't very, nice person. Um,
Mm.
so that was hard, as well. It was like all at once. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I was in quite a rough school, quite around, the wrong people, and then, trying to find who you are, amongst all that, where do I fit? What do I want from life? Do you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff.
yeah, I had a really similar upbringing as that too. I had a stepfather as well. What were your grades like? How'd you do in school?
Oh Christ. I didn't take anything serious until
Uh-oh.
the last year of school. So
Yeah.
it was like the last year. But at that time I was going through a lot of things with my mental health because I had an accident. I don't know if you've
Oh, I didn't know that. You gotta tell me about that.
I was around the wrong people, as I said, and I had an accident where I fell through a skylight on a roof. It's like a glass panel on a roof.
Wow.
And it was just messing around climbing roofs during the summer, and this glass panel smashed. Fell through it, cut my arm open, lacerations and all the rest of it. Very lucky to be alive. Fell about 14 feet down, landed on a small sink cubicle that
Mm,
like broke my fall. Um, so I had like PTSD, anxiety, I had depression from the trauma from that.
mm,
So that was when I was 13. So that was going on. But then from that event, I stopped hanging around with the people I was hanging around with because that was almost like a wake up call. That happened. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be around those kind of people. But then, I was in school for a bit. I had to have a bit of time off because of that. But
Mm.
that was all around like the last 2 years of school. But I managed to do my tests. Um, I could have got better grades. I mean, I got a lot of D's, and
Oh,
I got a lot of averages. I got an F in maths. I got a B. Well, do you? I don't know if you. Yeah, you do the same grades.
yep.
I got a B in religious studies, and I got like a C in English. But then later in life, I retook my maths, and I got a C. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I wasn't thinking about education. I was just too busy playing video games, messing around with the wrong people.
So
Um,
that instance had a big impact on you. I could tell that situation. Does it still affect you in any way today? Are you afraid of heights? Are you afraid of, I don't know, trusting people with your safety?
I think. I mean,
Are
I would
you
never.
physically hurt? Like, is anything wrong with your body today?
No, I've got
Okay.
nothing wrong with my body. I've got scars, obviously, but I don't suffer from that anymore. I
Mm.
physically I'm okay, mentally. Um, I had therapy, I talked to people, and I saw a doctor and all the rest of it to
Mm.
work through all that. And I had to have, my mum helped me because she was doing like a her counseling course and stuff. So
Mm.
I had the support there, luckily. But no, I'm fine now. But I mean, at the time, I mean, yeah, you
So
know,
your mother is a counselor, you just said?
yeah,
See, you got this in your blood then. This is
possibly.
like, yeah, this is in you somewhere. There's something that you guys have in your DNA, I bet.
Yeah, but
Well, that's interesting, man. I didn't think I pictured you for having a good scholastic career. So it sounds like you pulled yourself a whole 180, turn things around, huh?
yeah, no,
Cool.
cheers, man. Yeah, I mean, I believe everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? Really, and
Mm.
I think if that hadn't have happened, I probably wouldn't be doing this. I think like things happen in your life, don't they? And I don't know if that's the same with you. Like, do you think like have you always been interested in music? Have you always wanted to be in music, or
That's a great question. Yeah, I think I've been interested in music as soon as I discovered it. It just had something on me. Like I was saying in a previous interview I had earlier this year, before I got into music, I was really big into like audiobooks. Audiobooks have been around forever. There used to be on record players, and you could just spin, Barney or He-Man or whatever little stories you like. And I used to just sit right by the record player and listen to stories. And then when I really understood the lyrics in music, forget about it, man. I've been an addict. I'm a music addict. And similar to you and your mother, my biological father was really big into music too. So part of me, I've always wondered if there's just something in me that is a fiend for music. But yeah, I love it, man. Always have, probably since as long as I can remember, since like 4 years old.
wow, that's pretty young,
Yeah.
isn't it, to be into music?
Yeah. Like right away.
Like,
Yeah.
what did you have? Was it like a CD player, tape?
Well, I lived with my grandmother growing up, so really started with record players. I really just played old records. And then my mother and my biological father, even though they were split up, they both had cassettes. So I got down with the cassette players. That's actually where I first came across Prince. They had Prince on cassette. Um, and then when I got into like my young, teenage years and, 10, 11, 12, 13, CDs. And I still use CDs to this day, actually. If you drive into my car, I got 4 CD cases in the back seat. I alter those CDs like books, pop them in the CD player. Yeah, I'm still on that shit.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think still a lot of people do listen to CDs, and I know for sure. Like, I did see an article a while back, and it said like vinyl. is like surpassed. Is it CDs or something? Like vinyls are really big now.
Yeah, I heard that too. I don't have a record player today. But I wonder if there's like a nostalgic factor in there because
Mm.
vinyl provides a different sound too than a CD, and definitely different sound than a wave or an MP3 file. There's something warm and open about vinyl records.
Yeah.
What about you, man? First, what what are you even listening to right now? What do you listen to for music?
Um, I listen to I've been listening to some of your music.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice.
yeah. And I've been listening to I really like Juice World.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
like Juice World. I've been listening to like some rock music, Alice Cooper, some like old school rock music, um, Led Zeppelin,
What's
like
like your favorite, like your go-to uh favorite? I guess you can go by genre.
I think I really like old school hip hop, like old school like like 90s underground like hip hop.
You play that most often more than anything else?
I say recently a lot I've been playing a lot of Juice World
Okay. Yep.
because I really I think it's crazy. I can really relate to some of his music, and
Mm,
I think there's so much of his music still coming out, even though he's
mm,
died. There's so much
right.
unreleased stuff coming out, and it blows my mind.
Were you into like Little Peep at
Yeah,
all?
I've started to listen to some of his music recently.
Yeah. Yeah, Juice WRLD's really interesting. Another thing people don't really know or didn't know about Juice WRLD was he could freestyle his ass off. So aside from those records that people like you and me can really, really relate to and really are refreshing to people like you and me, just in a hip hop sense, he could also freestyle like a motherfucker, like crazy.
Yeah, because
That's cool, man.
did you see his 2 hour freestyle with what was
I think I have, but I don't think I've played the whole thing.
yeah, he did one with Eminem beats, and then he did one to like random songs, and he did one. I don't know if you've seen it. This guy's getting up like random objects, and he's like
Yeah,
rapping about the objects, like a camera, and then a pencil or whatever.
yeah, I've always respected that. My freestyling ability is bad. I'm
Yeah.
very much a methodical thinker and a writer. I need time.
Mm,
So when I see people with that natural gift to freestyle
mm,
at a high level, because there's a difference between just rhyming words that
mm,
come off the top of your head, but also rhyming words and saying something at the same time in the split of a second, something I don't possess. So shout out to everybody that can do that.
mm. Yeah, definitely. Because
Yeah.
I listened to him, Kendrick Lamar.
Yep. Yeah. He was just in Boston last night.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yeah, Kendrick Lamar is quite good. Nipsey Hussle was good, wasn't he? He's not around anymore.
Yes.
That's sad. Um,
Yes.
like Eminem. You know,
Okay. All US artists.
yeah. I mean, they're the American artists I like, and then like British artists I like. It's more like grime. So like,
You told me that.
if you heard like Dave, a guy called Dave,
Nope.
Wiley, Skepta.
I've heard of Wiley and Skepta.
But yeah,
Who was Wiley? He had a beef with somebody out there.
it was
Another
Stormzy.
Stormzy. Yeah, I'm really familiar with Stormzy. How's he doing out there?
I'm not too. I think he's just been on tour, or he's just been like on other people's songs. I've not listened to much of his music recently, but I know that he's always putting music out, or he's always on other people's music, like
Is
songs.
he a top tier hip hop artist out there?
I'd say so. Yeah, he like headlined Glastonbury or something like that, like
Okay.
a while back. but he had that beef with Wiley, and Wiley's the guy who kind of set up grime, and then
Mm,
he's a bit of a controversial guy. He's done some stuff that's probably not so great in the media.
mm.
But then, Stormzy's done equally stuff as well. I think it's that
Has he?
kind of. Hmm?
I said, has he? Because from over here, Stormzy looks clean. I haven't seen any drama from him.
I saw a video clip, and there's a guy called Chipmunk,
Heard of him?
and Stormzy and his crew went to Chipmunk's house in a blacked out car, and they like went there to intimidate him a while ago,
Mm,
because I think he might have said something about him in a song, and then it will kind
mm.
of tensions rise.
Hip hop, man, such a competitive genre. That's
Mm,
what I love about it too. So
yeah,
much like a sport.
and like, kind of what is I mean, really random question. Like, what would you say your like driving forces with it?
With making music,
Yeah,
my driving force,
or like what motivates you, or kind of.
I can't even explain it to you, man. It just it's it's in me, man. That's my driving force. I can't even
Mm,
explain to you what it is. It's like an obsession. Um, yeah,
it's
like
like in your energy.
yeah, I can't even stop. If I wanted to stop making music, my brain wouldn't let me.
Mm,
So I can't even really describe it to you. I guess the simplest answer I could say is my driving force is the love for it, just how
mm,
much I love it. Um, and I pay so much attention to the game because I'm so obsessed with it. I feel confidently that somebody like me is missing in the industry, and that fuels me a lot too.
mm,
The day, I turn on Vlad TV or World Star Hip Hop or Hot New Hip Hop, the day I go on one of these websites and I see somebody like me, I'll probably take a step back. But it's been my whole life, and I haven't really seen an artist that fills the void in hip hop that I feel like I can fill and that I do fill.
mm.
Um, yeah. So yeah, I can't. What about you, man? What fuels you to do what you do?
Yeah, no, I think it's really great what you just said, and I think I can relate to that, because I think in some way, because I think what fuels me is, like you said, it's hard to put into words sometimes, but it's that energy, that passion, and it's like this driving force in you, isn't it? That
Yeah,
you you want to kind of work on your craft,
yeah,
and you think about it when you're not doing it, um,
exactly.
and you're just wanting to improve. And I think my driving force is, you know, I like help. I like helping other people. I want to create content, to put it out there, um, to for people to see it and take something away from it. I think that's my driving force of it. I enjoy talking to people. I love connecting with people. I
Yeah.
love having conversations with people like yourself, and having deep conversations.
Do you think there's anything you love more or love equally?
It's a
Because
good question.
for me, there isn't, and that's always a telltale sign for me. Is that I know that there's nothing else I love more than music. There's nothing that makes me tick like music does. So I don't even have to really question, regardless of what the financial outcomes are or the numerical outcomes are. I don't really have to question of if I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing because it's a no-brainer to me.
Hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, no, I think I feel very similar in that aspect. I think the conversations I've had, the experiences that I've had doing podcasting, you know, nothing comes close to this. Coming to this experience of sitting down with someone or a couple of people and having a conversation about different things, and learning about someone and going into certain areas, and then putting that out there into the world. And then that's something that I think nothing else comes close to this, apart from maybe having deep conversations with people in real life. Do you know what I mean? But then you can have conversations with people in real life and you kind of think, damn, I should have had the microphone then. Because
I think about that all the time. Yep. Yep. Which goes back also to something we were talking about earlier with about money, is don't you feel like fame and money are two of the biggest motivators and fuels for a lot of artists and creators today?
I'd say so, yeah. I think fame and money are two big fuelers in it. And I think that's
Yeah.
why the thing is, I think with that, you have to be very, very disciplined. I think you have to know yourself and kind of how it's like, a bit of a balancing act, really, isn't it? I mean, it's, I suppose, in that realm, you see some successful artists or some successful, actors, and you can kind of respect them because they've got money and they're famous and they deal with it in a good way. They're not like, dickheads, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's probably knowing yourself, being quite disciplined, and going about things in the right way. But yeah, I think for creators, for people in the music industry and this industry, podcasts, is a big motivator, and I think that's what a lot of people gravitate towards. But I think if you're just focused on those two things, that's just your main focus, you're going to burn out, and you might get the fame, you might get the money, and people think that's going to change their lives, it's going to make them completely happy for the rest of their lives. And then there's a downward spiral or come down, because then they realize, okay, well, it hasn't kind of fitted that puzzle. It's not completed what I thought was going to be.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point.
Whereas
That's definitely true.
if you're fueled, you're passionate about what you do, that's different. The fame and the money will come with it, and vice versa, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that there's definitely a difference between just somebody who really loves the craft and somebody who's just naturally talented at the craft. I find a lot of individuals chasing money or fame are just naturally good at what they're doing and don't necessarily have the love for it. And then I also see on the other side of the spectrum people that really love something but aren't naturally good at it.
Hmm.
So that stuff always racks my brain a little bit. I have trouble with that too. Like in my artistry, I hate the business so much, and I find myself having a hard time balancing the two of how to remain true to myself, how to remain artistic, but also be heard, not just be somebody in the corner, you know, rapping to themselves, releasing music for their mom. You find yourself battling that like yin and yang at all, of like, how do I stay true to myself and my craft, but also how do I get heard without not being myself or like selling out myself? You know what I'm saying? Do you battle that at all?
No, I completely see what I completely see what you mean. I understand, and I think it's that in that industry, you're wanting to get your stuff out there, and then, like you said, there's that trying to put yourself out there and trying to be yourself at the same time. And I think, like, I if I can relate that to podcasting, the way I see it and how I can relate to that maybe is seeing my content And I don't care about how many likes I get. It's not why I do it. But sometimes I'll put out really good content out there, and it might only get, so many hits or whatever. And then I see like some video or someone else doing a podcast talking about something stupid, and then
Mm,
it's got crazy amount of attention or whatever. I mean, that person is probably earned their way there, and I've got no no problem with that. But
mhm,
I think sometimes it's the context of what's being put out there. Some people just gravitate towards that, and I think sometimes it's that, if you're not careful, you know, like, we can sometimes doubt ourselves, or there's positive and negative criticism. Do you know what I mean? But we can't quarrel and go and spiral down and compare ourselves. Do you know what I mean? We can't. But you have to catch yourself, and you have to be like, okay, well, you know, I'm still doing okay.
mm.
They're doing something different, or let them get on with it. So I think in that sense, yeah, it's kind of like trying to put out your content, trying to be yourself, and you don't have to act a certain way to get whatever attention, if that makes sense. So it's a fine, I think it's a fine balance, but being consistent and doing your best, I think, is the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can agree with that.
And like, are you good for time, by the way?
Yeah,
I'm just
dude,
checking on you.
I made
Cool.
all the time. I was looking forward to our conversation.
No, that's cool, man. Same here. I just making
Hell
sure
yeah.
you're good.
Yep, for sure. I don't even know what time it is. Oh, damn. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. And yeah, like, what about say mental health? Like, we talk about mental health. Like, how do you kind of like deal with things like, what do you think, like, that what's important about that area?
That's a great question. Um, and also convoluted question. Mental health. Um, and I don't even know where to begin with that. Um,
Do you want to- So mental health. So
hmm,
like, so how do you kind of look after your mental health? Like, what do you do to like relax or whatever, and why that's important?
well, man, that's tough. Like to relax for me, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, I'm really big into video games. I'm really big into fishing and camping. Um, that's what I do to relax. But mental health is it's sticky nowadays. Like between social media, between the openness of drug use like cannabis and alcohol, and just where we are as a society, mental health is just a gray thing to me right now. I don't think any, I don't know anybody personally that looks like they got it all together. And I'm not going to tell you I got it all together. So what I think about mental health is I think that we're all battling something. To what extent is depending on the person. Um, for me, my focus presently is I'm working on the ego. I think it kind of ties into a lot of what we just talked about in regards to, releasing content and art and all that, uh, and comparing ourselves to others. Um, but yeah, for me, man, I think conversations like this are healthy. I think being true to yourself is healthy. I think taking time to have the conversations that need to be had within yourself is healthy. I think a lot of times we run away from unfinished business within our own mind, whether it be, to go out and hang with our friends, whether it be to go smoke some weed, whether it just be go to the studio and I don't know, fucking make music. Sometimes I think we just need to sit down, sober brained, and have the conversations with ourselves that we don't want to have or that are hard to have. Um, yeah, those are my thoughts on mental health at the moment, man.
Yeah.
What about yourself? What comes to your mind? What's today? August 11th, 2022, when somebody says mental health, what do you think?
um, you know, I agree, and I love what you said, and I think you know, it's like you've got those things that you enjoy and things that you can do to, like, you know, help you with, you know, your mental health. And I think, you know, when I think of mental health, you know, I was thinking of today actually. I was thinking past couple of years, you know, COVID, you know, was difficult on people's mental health.
Mm,
Um, you know, it affected people differently. Some people, there was a silver lining in it. Some
mm,
people, it was disastrous.
mm,
You know, in so many areas. And then I think, you know, with things that are happening in the world or the media, I think you have to be very disciplined and careful what you look at, what you choose to look at, what you choose to read on the news and social media, you know, who you spend your time around, all these different things, you know, come into your mental health. Uh,
yeah,
you know, looking at the things that you enjoy, trying to find things you enjoy to help you with how you feel. Like you talked about video games, fishing, camping. You know, I play video games. I've got a Nintendo Switch and PlayStation and stuff. So I'll just kind of chill out and I'll play Mario Kart or something with my girlfriend or whatever.
mm.
Um, she always kicks my ass. I'm no good at it, but
I'm pretty good at Mario Kart
yeah,
too.
it's
Yeah,
pretty good. So,
yeah,
you know, I'll play that. I'll chill out. You know, I think podcasts, you know, doing podcasts, having these kind of conversations help me to relax. How, you know, they just ground me. Um, Creating content, you know, putting clips together, putting, you know, the behind the scenes stuff. Quite like doing that and that process. You know, walking, uh,
yeah.
seeing family, friends, what, you know,
Mental
you know,
health's a really hot topic
mm,
lately. And part of me wonders if it's a hot topic because now the masses are accepting of it and being maybe more open to talking about it, and we're all kind of realizing, oh yeah, we're all a little fucked up here.
mm,
Um, but I also wonder if mental health is such a hot topic because we're in the middle of some very unnatural things for humans.
mm,
Like social media, I don't think that's natural for us to constantly be able to see what other people are doing and also what other people want us to see at all hours of the day, anytime we please. I think that plays a big factor into what's going on with mental health currently. um, what do you think? I'm sure you agree with that.
yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And I think, you know, especially when you look at it, if you wake up first thing in the morning, I try not to go on Instagram or whatever at certain times. I try not to go on social media before I go to sleep. It's hard when you're a creator and you're putting content out there and replying to messages. But I try not to go on too late, or I try not to go on first thing in the morning, because I
Mm,
find you could see something that can make you feel a certain way, and then that might just domino throughout your day because you compared yourself to a video, or you know, or you see something that's might be negative, it might, you know, dishearten you. But then it can work the other way. You might see something that is positive. So it's a bit like, you know, a gamble, really, isn't it? It's a bit like you know, lottery with what comes up in your feed. But I think, like you said, people in that, you know, instant gratification, people want that instant gratification, and to receive a comment, to receive a like. Not all people, but some people. And, you know, like you said, I don't think we're designed that way. I think we're slowly evolving through these times and through these devices and what we're surrounded by. But when you kind of cut back to the core things that make us human, we're out there in the surviving in the wild and hunting and groups and all of these things. So all these things that are man-made, it's something that we're then adapting to and having to try and deal with when it's not natural.
Yeah,
So
and I think we're all a little bit famous, and I don't think we were meant for that too. Due to social media, whether you got 2 followers or 2 million followers, you're a little bit famous to those followers in some way, shape, or form. And I don't think humans were meant. I don't think we were meant to do that.
well,
Getting on to what you were saying.
a prime example, if you think about it, right, is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So, I've got nothing against the guy. I think, it's quite controversial, some of the things he does. Not everyone agrees with what he does and says, but
Mm.
I think he's pretty cool in some of the stuff he does anyway, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he has so much influence over how people think and how people act just by a tweet. He can
Right.
fluctuate the stocks and he can fluctuate how people think. And that is a
Yeah.
lot of power for one person just through tweeting.
Yeah.
And I think Joe Rogan says the same thing, but Joe Rogan's very open about how he is. But he's got a lot of influence based on how many people follow him and like him.
Oh
And
yeah.
it might work both ways with myself and you. You've got people who follow you and will like what you do, and we have a part to play in this say system, but in this life. People
Mm.
listen to this. People build opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So mental health, great question, man. That's
Yeah,
just a gray area to me. I'm glad people are talking about it. Um, I think it's important. Um, but I think it's an evolving thing right now. I don't think there's an answer to really any question pertaining to how to maintain good mental health. I don't think there's a right
mm,
answer to that.
yeah,
Talking our way through it, I think is going to help us. But I think everybody's battling something in some way, shape, or form.
yeah, definitely. And that's, I think, the human condition, isn't it? And based on our past and based on things that have happened, or based on things that are happening, in our life. And I think you have to do and find what works for you, don't you? You have to find what it is and what helps you to, like, relax or wind down. And people say to me, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think, like, if I don't do certain things for myself, I can't do and be and show up to be the person that I want to try and do. Do you know what I mean? And it might work, you know, with what you do as well. If we don't do certain things for ourselves, then do you know what I mean? That affects how we are and how we go about stuff.
Yeah, the cliche phrase, what they say, you got to love yourself before you can love somebody else.
Mm,
You got to work on yourself before you can help somebody else, or help
mm,
yourself before you can help someone else. Um, yeah, I do that too. To be
mm,
frank, like just our conversation today is a step for my mental health.
mm.
Like I don't care where you're from, but talking to somebody that you can have, a real conversation with without
All the
the
bullshit.
all the bullshit. Yeah. Um, helps my mental a lot. So, that's a big kudos to you. I wouldn't even have this conversation if I didn't think it was going to be good for my own sake, not for
Yeah,
business, not for music, just for my own mental.
yeah,
Um, like, yeah, just this conversation alone is me taking action on that.
yeah. No, definitely. And I think, like,
Yeah.
relating to people. And the thing is, I have conversations, you know, like you're in America, or thousands of miles away, and I can relate to you more than some people, closer. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's important that we do that, isn't it? And have certain conversations that people don't, because some people aren't comfortable having certain conversations in general life, and you have to have those conversations and go into that more for people to, do you know what I mean, think about it and go into it.
yeah.
Like as well, like, do you have any role models or any role models growing up? Like, did I never ask you that when I first met you? Do you have any like role models, or who are your role models when you were growing up?
Yeah, that's a really
Whether
good
that's
question too.
whether that's professionally or personally.
Yeah. mm, Role models, personal role models. I don't know. I'm really influenced by a little bit of a lot of people. I remember musically, Kurt Cobain influenced me first. I felt that what he was saying and how he was delivering his message um, was true to himself. It was against mainstream feelings and ideas at that time. Um, so that really influenced me, and that kind of sparked me to say, you know what, fuck what anybody has to say. I'm gonna do me. And then I came across Kiss, the rock band, and they were doing the same thing. They're like, fuck what anybody thinks. We're gonna do us. And then I came across Lil Wayne, and he said the same thing. Fuck what all you guys think. I'm gonna do me. And I'm sure if you followed hip hop, you've known all the slander Lil Wayne has taken in his early career. It's a miracle that he's still making music at the level he is today, just off of how much slack and public slander he got during his career. Um, Even like some WWF wrestling characters were role models to me. I know they're not that, that's a male soap opera wrestling, but some of the characters they portray and who they're expressing themselves as were role models to me, like Kane, The Rock, Stone Cold, um,
John Cena.
John Cena, right? um, and Quentin Tarantino was a role model to me. Somebody who still loves cinema more than damn near 99% of the directors releasing movies today. So my role models all over the place. In my personal life, I don't know, man. My mother has, she's taught me plenty of things, but there's nobody in my personal life that I'm like, that's who I aspire to be. That I take notes from him. It's all a little bit from everybody. You feel the same way, or do you have a go-to?
Yeah, no, I feel the same way actually. You know, it's we can take a lot from loads of different people, can't we, really? And
Yeah.
I think, I really like Quentin Tarantino as well, and I love his passion for films, and I like films, and I saw he like even commented on the new Top Gun movie, and he said it was like one of the best films he's seen recently.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I like Tarantino. I like who else do I like Gary V. I like some, that Gary V guy does like marketing and stuff. There's a lot of, speakers that I
What do you
like.
think is what do you think's like the difference between a role model and an
Mm.
influence?
I think a role model is someone you take things from.
Okay.
Um, and I think an influence is more closer.
So
I'm
tell
trying.
me this. I had a shitbag stepfather as well. Um, I won't get into all that,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
not
That's fine.
not a good man either. Do you, even throughout all that, darkness growing up with your stepfather, do you still think you learned a lot of good things from that man, or no? Like, did he teach you or show you anything that you still use to this day?
I think some parts, yeah,
Okay.
some parts I do in a good way.
Mm,
You know, he was okay up until like a certain age that I was, but then I think that was because of his upbringing, and you know, once I reached a certain age, it was very negative. But I think, you know, he was quite disciplined. He was very straightforward.
mm.
Um, you know, like it wasn't all bad, but I think you do take some good bits. I think if there are some good bits for that person.
Even
Um,
if it's indirectly, right? Even if they're showing you what not to do,
yeah,
you still pull something from that person. Yeah.
yeah. I think to some degree, yeah. I
But you
mean,
wouldn't say that person's a role model.
no, I wouldn't say that that person's a
Yeah.
role model. I mean, you know, I've got two brothers who, you know, there was that was their dad. You know,
Oh, okay.
you know, I feel sorry for them because he's not really in their life anymore. Do you know what I mean? And things like that. So it's a strange one, really. You know, with that because you know, even though there's not good times, I think there was some times you can look out. You know, where you did take something away. If that makes sense. Uh,
Yeah.
I was a lot younger, but then you know, like with role models and influencers, I mean, it you know, it can be people. Some people say teachers, don't they? I think you know, I take a lot from my mum. My mum's done really well. She's been through a lot of different things.
Mm,
Um, you know, she broke up from my stepdad. You know, had me and my two brothers. You know, moved house whilst doing her degree. You know,
yeah.
all at once. So you know, I see my mum as a role model. Um, my friends, my connections, like self on social media. You know, you're my, you know, I see what other people are doing, and that kind of puts me in check and keeps me on track. You know, and
Mm.
you know, people we meet, you know, my role models. I think I learn a lot. I think I learned a lot from like you know during COVID, like that Gary V guy. He was like saying, you know, you just need to get out there and just go and do things, and that kind of like made me think about my own life and because I used to do content, I used to make content and not put it out there because I'd be worried about what people think about it.
Mm.
So, you know, some people it's just I like people who've been through some stuff and they've come
Mm.
out the other end. You know, I've got two good friends, Brian and Greg. I've done podcasts for them. They're ex-military. They're in the States and they've been through a lot. They've been, you know, Afghanistan, Iraq, and places, and they help businesses with security now, and they have a podcast. And you know, I see them as role models. So it's not always, you know, big people on TV. Sometimes it's, you know, people we meet, but there are people on TV like actors I like. I mean, I like, you know, Keanu Reeves
Okay. Hell yeah.
because he
I
actually
like
seems like,
Keanu.
yeah, he actually seems like a nice guy, and he takes his role serious, and
Mm.
he kind of goes all in.
Mm. Yeah, it's a really tough question, man.
Yeah,
After this podcast, I'm gonna be thinking about that. Role models.
yeah,
It's a really tough question because
mm,
when you ask that question and then I listed off all those people, I maybe they're more influences than role models.
mm.
Um,
I
it's
think,
a good question, man.
yeah, I think influences like more behavior, isn't it? And if
Role
you,
model is like the model, the ideal model of what you aspire to be or you want to be.
mm,
And I don't really know if I break it down like that. I would think of like somebody like Jay-Z.
mm,
Um, you know, just his demeanor, the way he releases music, like you said, how he came from nothing to something, how educated he is. I definitely model a lot of what I do and who I am kind of based on that persona or character of Jay-Z. But when it comes to like real life figures, I can't think of anybody, man. That's a good thing though, right? It means
Yeah.
you're unique. You're gonna be you will
Yeah.
be the role model.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. And the thing is, you don't have to have people, all the time who close by. And that's one of the things that's, good in with the internet and things. We can look at other people and find people to, find motivation from, and role models and things like that. Um, as well. Is there any other topics that come to mind that you want to touch base on?
Nah, man.
Um,
I wanted to say I fucking love your hairstyle.
oh.
Mustache is looking fucking good, dude. I've been wanting to tell you that, so that's
Cheers, man.
important to say. Cheers. Um, nah, and I really wanted to get on here and just kind of tell you, that I'm happy and I'm impressed with what you're doing, and I want you to keep doing it. And I don't know if other guests say that to you, but from over here in the States, cheers to you, man. I really fuck with what you're doing.
No, cheers, Jay. No, I really, really appreciate your support, and I'm, really grateful to be your friend, and I'm really grateful to be able to, have these podcasts with you, and I really thankful for everything, and I really love what you do. I love your music, and I think you should keep doing what you're doing as well. And what I'll do is as well to kind of finish off. I've got your I'll share my screen, and I've got one of your songs, your Tarantino song. You want me to play it?
Yeah.
So, it's about 2 minutes something. So I'll play it now. It should pop up the video. So just bear with me a second.
All right.
You should be able to hear it. Can you hear that?
No. No. It's
Okay, let
kind
me
of
see.
moving. It's like moving slow and glitchy too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, share sound.
No, life's the real casino. I don't play no keno. I drop acid like a
Turn the
Mino, then go
quality
ball
down.
with Chino. Mama Chino, I'm the one, baby, I'm El Nino. Gutta Tarantino, act like Gutta Valentino. Pop that maraschino, baby.
You hear it now?
Yes, I can. You spelled my name wrong up there in the YouTube search.
Jay Pacino, cut him off like I've been
Sorry.
planning keto. Mama
It's
Chino,
all
I'm the
good,
one,
man.
baby, I'm El Primo. I don't correlate with suckers, I'm a motherfucker. I ain't cooking nothing, I might have a pussy supper. Don't go saving backstabbers, let that pussy suffer. I'll talk about it in my session, then go book another. They pillow talk about the kid that really undercovers. That ain't no blunder, I'm not dumb, you got my fucking number. They're not loading nothing, I'll just let the clicker buffer. Make lippy bitches pucker, bitch you won't find no other. Gutta Tarantino, I'm the great Gambino. Life's the real casino, I don't play no keno. I roll backwards like burritos, then go bow with Chino. Mama Chino, I'm the one, baby, I'm El Nino. Gutta Tarantino, act like Gutta Valentino. Pop that maraschino, baby, help me flare my ego. Jay Marino, pass him off and leave him jalapeno. Mama Chino, I'm the one, baby, I'm El Primo. Facts, and all my threads is red and black, like it's roulette. I fucked this local singer, but I tried to pull the duet. In the kitchen with the pipe, Scarlet, do you get the clue yet? But now she texts my phone to say that she's been going through it. I've been double timing way before I wore my 2X. I felt like Hoodie Mellow even when I wore my crew neck. And all I see is red pussy, you just want the blue check. Dancing with the devil, he might teach me how to two-step. Levels to this shit, you still think we in the duplex? Said that I'd be back, but now I'm back to hit the suplex. They're not saying shit in front of me, it's in the group text. I don't need to tell them they should say less, they do less. You hear that? Gutta Tarantino.
No, it's a good song, man.
Cool. I'm glad you dig it.
Yeah. And like with the video, like, does it take a while to kind of put the cinematography together and the ideas and stuff? Like,
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. That particular video was shot in an old colonial mansion in Massachusetts. We lost the footage of the outside of the mansion, so you don't get to see like the pillars or me performing outside the place. So everything you're seeing in that video is me inside the mansion. But yeah, it takes time, man. Shout out to Ventige Co. They produced that music video. Ammo, my engineer, he produced the song. But yeah, slow process for me.
yeah.
I'm definitely somebody that wants it perfect before it comes out. I'm not the guy that shoots it yesterday and releases it today.
And it's an art form, isn't it? Really, it's not just I'm going to film it, do it, and put it out. It's, you know, you're crafting this thing to make it, you know, put it out there.
Yeah, I'm really big about my catalog and my legacy and looking back and being proud of what you put out. And that could be an ego issue itself. I don't know. But I definitely care about the art. And I don't care if it takes a year, 2 years to finish the damn song. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not putting it out until I think it's ready.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think, you know, you've got to stay true to yourself, haven't you? And you've got to like do what you think works. And I think that's a really good process. And because, you know, it's setting that bar and standard for yourself, isn't it? And then kind of going, okay, well, what's next?
Yeah, 100%. And you want to be proud of your own stuff too. You know, if you're releasing stuff that you're not proud of, but you're releasing it because you know others will like it, I don't know. That doesn't work for me. I need to feel good about it before I let anybody else see it.
Yeah, definitely.
With that being said, I do have a lot more coming too. So
Where can people find that? Where can people find your
everything is who is Jay Gudda, JAYGUDDA. So you can go to whoisjaygudda.com. You can go to Who Is Jay Gudda on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all that. I don't even like plugging that stuff, but if you like this interview, go ahead, take a listen. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you asking.
No, you're welcome, man. You're welcome. It's been, you know, really great talking to you and really great having you back on the podcast. And you know, I love everything that you do. I love your music. You know, I have really good conversations with you, and you know, keep doing what you're doing. And you know, I'm grateful to be able to do this. And you know, I wish you all the best in everything you're doing. And stay tuned for next time.
It's a pleasure. Right back at you, partner.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Cheers, man.
let's do it again.
Yeah, sure thing. Take it easy.